Good morning, my friends. Listen to the seagulls, get your coffee or your tea or indeed your cocktail, and let's make something really, really pretty today. We're going to be finishing off this beautiful bracelet. This is the bluish one that I've made. Okay, so if you want to learn how to make this, keep watching. So let's have a look at these gorgeous links, shall we? Look at these. They make absolutely beautiful earrings. So I've made a pair here with just little paddles on. Yeah, gorgeous. And then we're going to be making these little units with a little bend in them so that we can finish off this bracelet, because you need a little bit of an arc in them to fit around the wrist. Or like I say, you can just make them nice and straight like this one and make them into earrings. Okay, so let's have a look at what we need. You're going to need some wire, obviously. So to make the base wire with the trefoil sides to it, you're going to need 1mm. That's 18 gauge copper wire. You can use whatever wire you like. So that you're also going to need, where are you? You're going to need 24 gauge, which is 0.5, and that's for the herringbone wrapping. Excuse the sun spots coming through my blinds. Hopefully it won't be too much of a problem, but it's a beautiful day today here in the northwest of England. You're going to need some pliers, so whatever you like, your favourite pliers. Yeah, and you're also going to need some round nose. I'm going to be using my 6-step bell makers. Now these are 2 to 9 to make these little designs here on either side. You need some cutters and a pair of these handy nylon jaw pliers would be really good. Apart from that, you're only going to need a ruler just to measure out your lengths. And what else are you going to need? Some beads, obviously. I'm using 8mm. Now the measurements that I'm going to give you today are 4 8mm beads, and all of the measurements that I give you are specific to the 2 to 9 increment pliers. Now, once you've learnt the principle of how to make them, if you've got a 1 to 3 to 10 or a 1 to whatever, obviously you can just, these are just ideas. So take the idea and run with it and use your own measurements, that kind of thing. Okay, so I'll clear all this away and we'll have a look at making these really, really, really cute little components for your jewellery. Okay, so I'll see you in a few. Now then, I am sitting here looking out at my garden and the sun is shining beautifully. So we've had some flame of the forest coming out and some camellias, I think, and whatever they are. And my palm tree, which we dressed up and sort of wrapped up with cotton wool for the winter, has been unwrapped and the palm is looking beautiful. So, which is amazing here in the northwest of England because it's usually quite cold, quite wet. So my garden's looking a little bit nice. It needs a bit of a tidy up, but it does, doesn't it, post winter in the springtime. Anyway, enough of all of that. Let's get on to how to make these. So if you're making a bracelet, which we're going to finish, this lovely one with these are just white agates. So we're going to finish this one here. So if you're going to make a bracelet, then I would suggest you do all of these in a production line, which I'm going to show you how to do, yeah, in stages. So each one of the lengths that you need of your 18 gauge is, as you can see, 8.2 centimeters. Now that seems very specific, but I spent quite a while working out how much you exactly need to make these links pretty much exact without having any spare wire showing. So 8.2 centimeters. Now that is literally 3¼ inch. All right, for you guys that use inches. Yeah, so you're going to need to take a few of those. Yeah, so cut them off, flush cut both ends. Yeah, and then we'll go from there. So we're going to make this first side, and this is like the trefoil type of design. We've made these before in head pins and things like that. Not a new design, is it? But it's you can take designs that have been done 1,000 times and make them your own, and just sort of come up with various different ways of making them. So I'm going to take my 6-step bowl making plier. Now I shall be using the first step, which is a 2mm increment step here. Let me just get this out of the way in the corner. So the first thing you do is pop your wire in your plier so you can't feel the end of it. Now, like with most tutorials on my channel, I do aim it towards the beginner because I am still only an intermediate, and I think it's nice to have it all explained. If it goes too slow for you, then either watch another channel, or indeed you can just, you know, fast forward the boring bits. So let's put that there, and we bend the wire round into a P shape like this. So we have a P shape. Take the pliers and pop them about 2 to 3 millimeters along so that we have a bit of a gap, if you can see that there. I hope it's focusing. Yeah, and then we bend the wire round over the top. So we have this double sort of hoop thing. Place the pliers back again about 2 to 3 millimeters. And we want to be replicating this side here, okay? But we want to go underneath this time. So take your wire underneath. And this is what you should have. Okay, so we'll just do that one more time. So take your wire at the edge, bend it round to make a P, 2 to 3 millimeters, bend it around over the top, and then 2 to 3 millimeters down, give or take, and bend it underneath. Yeah, so if you're making a bracelet, how many units have I got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I've taken 6 of these units. Let me just bob this off and we'll see how long this is, just for your knowledge. So the actual units themselves take up 6.5 inches. It's about 16.5 centimeters. So with the clasp, you're looking at about 7.25, 7.5 inches for mine. Okay, so, you know, make a necklace. You could make a necklace if you wanted to. That would be beautiful too. Okay, so we've got, let's say we're going to make, I want to do for 6 of these, yeah? Or indeed 2 if you're making earrings. Excuse my voice, I'm still a little bunged up actually, and I've got a bit of a blocked ear, so I'm not sure if I'm shouting at you. You know, I've got a blocked ear. It's terrible. My sinuses are blocked, and so is my ear. Never mind. So what you want to do is take a thin plier. I'm using my needle nose here, and pop them just in line with the bottom of these 2 loops, and just give it a bit of an angle. Just twist it on an angle, like so. So you just pop your pliers in and just bring it onto an angle so that the trefoil shape is like that and not bent to one side. Yeah, so you do that with all of your guys here. Yeah, so you've got 6 or whatever. Next thing we want to do is to create this lovely wrap around the bead. All right, so you want to take your 0.5, which is your 24 gauge. Now I've worked out that I'm using about 18 to 20 centimeters of this per unit. Yeah, I've got 18 centimeters there. Now I like to have a little bit more, a little bit longer, just so I've got something to hold on to. Yeah, so, you know, that's up to you really how you choose to do that. So let's come in with our bead. So I've got these beautiful, just white agate beads here, which I think look extremely pretty with the copper. Yeah, but you can use whatever you like. I think silver and black might be really, really pretty too. But, you know, this is where your own choice, you know, design choices come in. So pop the wire over the top, the short end, and just wrap it round once. And then wrap it underneath like that. So you've just literally got one wrap like that around, okay? And you just want to take that end off. So come in with your plier, just snip that end off so that you just literally have one little one little wrap, one little loop. Are you going to focus there? And then I just give it a bit of a squish like that. Can you see that? So it's just one wrap round. And then bring it down to the left hand side. Obviously, if you're right-handed, you bring it down to the left. If you're left-handed, do the opposite. Take your bead and pop that on, like so. Now I'm just going to push it right down to the end because we need to get a bit of purchase here. You know, we need this first wrap to be quite tight, just to make sure that everything starts off properly. So we take our wire, so it's coming from underneath. Push this down and wrap it around your bead nice and tightly and pop it over the top of your base wire and underneath, and then wrap it around the top again. So we have this. And now you can bring your bead up a little bit. It's easier to use, easier to work with. And then we want to turn our base wire and wrap this wire over the top again. Yeah, making sure that these aren't too far forward. They're just sort of just over the center point. Not too far in, not too far back, but sort of just around. And then wrap over the top, underneath, and back over the top again, so that we have one wrap on either side. You see that? Then we turn the work again. Wrap over the top of this wire. So you want to go over the top of this wire, nice and neatly, tightly if you can. Over the top of the base wire, underneath, and then over the top again. So we have this. Use your nails just to sort of catch everything in if you need to. And then this wire goes underneath this wire this time. So over the top, underneath the wire that's already there, over the top of your base wire, around the back, and back over the top again. Now we just want to do this one more time. So I now go in between the wires. Can you see? So you place this wire in between the wires, like that. Can you see how I've just gone in between? Back over the top and around. And then again, place that wire in between the wires that are already there. And I just found that that makes it quite secure. Wrap it around once and then underneath. So as you can see here, we've got a little bit of spare wire, but that doesn't matter to me because I like to have a little bit more to sort of hold on to. It's easier. Excuse me, chop that off, discard that or do whatever you want with it. And then this little bit that's left, just give that a bit of a squish. Make sure everything's nice and tidy. The next thing to do is have a slurp of your coffee. Delicious. And then here we go again. So this is what we're left with, right? So we pop that right up as far as it'll go and nestle it into the V shape that you've got here, yeah, at the bottom. Just sort of push that up nice and gently so that it nestles in there. So what we're left with now is we have to replicate this on this side. Now this is the point where I hope that my measurements are correct. If they are, they should be. If they're not, then sadly you'd have to start again because it's very, very difficult to unfurl all of your wire and straighten it. So this is why I think I've tried to come up with the right sizes of mandrels and the right length of wire. Yeah, it took me a few goes yesterday, but not yesterday, day before, whenever it was. So I'm hoping that this works out okay. If it doesn't, then, you know, blame me and experiment yourself. So we want to do exactly the same on the other side. So we pop our wire at the end and do the same thing that we did initially. Yeah, so wind round your P, 2 or 3 millimeters down, and then bend it over the top, like this. And then 2 or 3 millimeters, and we bend it underneath. Now this bit's slightly fiddly, bear with it, just nice and smooth, nice and easy. And then bend your guy over the top. You should, thank goodness that worked. means that my measurements were good. You should have something like this. Right, now then, that looks a bit funky, doesn't it? Oops, that looks a little bit funky. So we need to sort those out, don't we? So I just sort of squeeze with my fingers to start with. Pull these little wrapping wires down a little bit if you need to. Just try and, you know, straighten everything up. So this is where I come in with my round nose. Yeah, you can't do this with these guys, obviously, because they are a different size. Just come in with the round nose and just sort of faff and fettle, as we say here in the northwest of England. You just fettle it a little bit. Make it nice and straight. And if it doesn't look straight, just sort of move it slightly. And then come in with your nylon jaw. Very, very gently, just give that a squeeze. Make sure everything is nice and settled, which it is. Come to the other side, pop your pliers in and just settle things down a little bit, you know, wiggle things around a little bit until you're happy, which I am with that. Yeah, and then come in with your nylon jaw, just give things a little tiny squeeze and then just faff around with it a little bit until you're happy, which I am. Now if you're making earrings, keep those ones straight, yeah, like I have with these here. They're nice and straight, yeah, don't put an arc in them. But if you're going to be making a bracelet, which we are here, then what you want to do excuse me, is to put a little bit of a bend in. So I hold these with my thumb, 4 fingers, and just bend it slightly, yeah, make sure it's equal on either side. You've just put a slight arc in it, if you can see that. Just very, very gently put a bend in, because that makes it so that it sits excuse me, on your wrist properly. Okay, so we'll just make another one of those, shall we? Let's take our base here. I'm going to cut off some wire. I'm just going to eyeball this because it's probably a bit too much, but hey ho. Take your wire, wrap it around underneath, and then pull it to one side like this. Just going to chop. Let's just bring that in a little bit. Just going to chop this little guy off here. And then I'm just going to squeege that down so it's tight and neat. Okay, I'll do this one a little bit faster just so you can watch along. If you don't want to watch along, then just forward this bit, fast forward this bit. Okay, pull it over the top, underneath and back over, making sure everything's nice and tight. Around, over the top, under, back over the top. Over the top of the first wire, underneath the first wire, and then in between the 2 wires, and then in between the 2 wires, and then back under to secure it. Okay, yeah, I used a bit too much there, but I did say I was going to eyeball it, didn't I? There you go. That's what eyeballing does for you. Measure, measure, measure. And then squish. Squish, squish, squish. Yeah? And then push it up. Like that. Then come in with my plier. First step. Let's make another trefoil design at the other side. Round. Off. 2 to 3 millimeters over the top, 2 to 3 millimeters down underneath, and hopefully everything will be in order. Let's pray that it's in order. Come in with your round nose pliers, give it a bit of a fettle, hopefully everything settles into place, which it does. Same here. Make sure you're happy and everything's nice and straight, which it is. Give it a bit of a squish. and then bend it into an arc for a bracelet like this. Right, so there we are. So that's how you make the actual units. So don't forget, obviously, if you want to make them into earrings, you can add some beads here. I've chosen to put little paddles on just because I think they look really, really pretty in the ear. You can use these for necklaces, all sorts of things. I just think these are just the prettiest of units, don't you think? Aren't they gorgeous? Yeah. So let's finish off this bracelet. So you're going to need some 3mm jump rings. I've made these out of 1mm wire with a 3mm internal diameter. I've put two in each of the connecting sections here. So we'll just quickly do this, and then we'll make a really simple clasp. Again, very beginner friendly, but you know what? It looks so expensive, doesn't it? And so elegant. And I really, really like simple, elegant jewellery that's easy to make, but it looks like you've spent a lot of time making them. Beautiful gifts, you know. And if you're anything like me and you do like to wear a lot of jewellery, not all at the same time, obviously, but I do like to wear beautiful pieces. You can use whatever beads you like, and you know, if you want to experiment, you know, use bigger or smaller beads, and then just sort of experiment with the length, you know, with the length of this wire that you need. All I did was, let me show you what I did. I basically, let's just show you what I did. I made the trefoil like that, and then what I did is I cut about here where the length starts. I cut that, and then all I did was I took my pliers and I unfurled it. You know, takes a bit of doing, but I unfurled it like that, you know, and I made it straight, kind of a thing, straightened it all out, and then I measured the length here, and that's the length that I knew that it took to create each of the trefoil shapes. So I just straightened all of that out. I think it was 3 centimeters, if I remember rightly. Can't remember exactly, because, you know, I've slept since then. So just straighten it all out as best you can, you know, give or take. And then I measured it. So let's have a look. Yeah, 3.5 centimeters it takes. So each one of these takes 3.5 centimeters of wire before you start the straight bit. So then, you know, 3.5 centimeters plus 3.5 centimeters makes 7 centimeters. And then all you need to do is just to work out exactly how much length you need in between to fit your beads on. I mean, you can make 3 seed beads with a wrap in between. You could make a larger bead, whatever. Yeah, but that's how I did mine. So I hope that's helpful. Probably not, but then there you go. Right, so here's our bracelet. So I'm just going to extend it slightly and put 3 or 4 seed bead chain on one side, because I found that 7 of these units made my bracelet too big, but 6 was just slightly too small. So this is where we come in and we fettle it. We faff about and just work around, you know, work with the lengths here like this. So I'm going to I'll do one more little chain. So I hope this has been an interesting video, not too boring. I'm always worried that I talk too much and, you know, you guys don't like listening to my beautiful northern accent, which I'm very proud of, I have to say. So let's make our clasp. So I'm just using a very, very simple shepherd's hook, just because I think the units are quite decorative, aren't they? And I think for me, I only sort of require a simple clasp. Yeah, so excuse me, I'm still a little bit gruff. Just cut off a little bit of 1mm or 1.25, whatever takes your fancy. And you just want to, where are my pliers? You just want to take the very end of it, bend it down, squeeze. That's got to go through a 3mm jump ring. So just make sure that your end goes through, which it does, that's fine. Yeah, and then come in with my plier. I'm using the 5th step with that facing me. Just bend it away. Just a very simple shepherd's hook. But again, you know, like with anything, these are just ideas, and you can make any clasp you like. I'm choosing to use a very simple one because, you know, I don't think it needs anything hunky-dory. And then around, and there's our simple clasp. Now I would hammer that slightly, give it some strength, some stability and some texture, which is very pretty. So all you need to do now to make that lie flat like so is to add a 3mm jump ring through the end of the trefoil shape, and then pop your little clasp on. Yeah, and then there we have our very, very, very pretty bracelet. So I'm just going to put this on off the camera. There we go. And there's our very, very, very pretty, I think they're pretty anyway. Look at these beautiful bracelets. Yeah, with that gorgeous, gorgeous unit, which, like I say, you can make into all sorts of things. Bracelets, necklaces, earrings. I just think they're really, really pretty. So I hope you enjoy making these. If you want to show off what you've been making, it doesn't have to be my work. You know, it doesn't have to be anything. It can be something you've come up with yourself, or indeed any other of the wonderful, wonderful artists and designers here on YouTube. We have a private Facebook group, which you're more than welcome to come and join. The only thing I ask is that there's no links involved, just to keep the group safe. It's my safe space and everybody else's safe space. Come and join us. Have a look at making these. Let me know how you get on and share what you've been doing. Write in the comments what colour beads you'd use. I'd love to know. Speak to you soon, guys. Enjoy.